Good evening. Welcome to tonight's live stream. I am going to get started with tonight's show in a moment. I just need to let everybody know that the stream is currently on the air. Hey, Keating Rourke, glad to see you here. Getting ready to go through tonight's show. Just need to let everybody on social media know that the stream is currently on the air. Starting a little late today because it's trying to get things sorted out as related to the videos I'm going to be posting as related to tonight's show. And I wanted to give everybody a big progress report as related to some content on the SJS Direct imprint. Pretty classy lady, glad to see you here. Computer Robots, glad to see you here. And I wanted to give everybody an announcement about audiobooks. I know a lot of viewers have been asking me about audiobooks, and audiobooks is something that I'm finally able to offer readers thanks to an Amazon project, which allows me to make audiobooks out of my books using a virtual voice. So I am going to be finally able to offer audiobooks to everyone, and that will, and the first audiobook I'm going to be able to give everybody is The Man Crisis. So The Man Crisis is now available on in audiobooks on Amazon.com right now. And if you want to pick up and purchase your own first SJS Direct audiobook of The Man Crisis, you can get that book over at Amazon.com right now. Glad to see you here, Nightingale Wednesday Nightmare in D-Wood 78 Part 2. Really glad to see everybody here. And I wanted to give everybody, again, another progress report on the SJS Direct 2024 catalog before I get into tonight's topic. Now, the SJS Direct 2024 catalog is going to kick off on March 22nd with John Haynes' Illuminati when it debuts in paperback and digital format at all online platforms. And you can get your paperback copy on March 22nd, and you can get your digital copies right now by putting in a pre-order on Amazon.com right now. Now, you can also pick up the other two books later on. You can put in the pre-orders for the digital Kindle versions of Isis Dark Incubus, which is a companion to 2019's critically acclaimed Dark Succubus. You can put in your pre-order for that book on Kindle on Amazon.com right now. And you can also put in a pre-order for the Esteem series book, Esteem Horror in the Hamptons, which is going to be available on May 24th. But you can pre-order all of those books right now and have those books right now ready for your pre-orders right now. Now, I'm also working on trying to get John Haynes' The Death's Door, the comic book, on Amazon.com. I'm working to get that done as well. I've already done a digital file with Kindle's Kindle Create, and I'm hoping to see what I can do to see what about getting the paperback version up there so everybody can get a copy of John Haynes' at Death's Door. So that's the progress report on the SJS Direct 2024 catalog. And with that all said, I want to get into tonight's topic. And tonight's topic is all about the unrealistic expectations that a lot of modern women have about relationships. Now, when it comes to a lot of modern women, it seems like they have these extremely unrealistic expectations regarding dating and relationships. And I believe that this foundation of unrealistic expectations really comes from the dysfunctional way they are being raised. Now, a lot of these girls have been raised in this culture to become feminists and not women. And because they've been raised to become feminists, they don't really understand what their role is as a woman, nor do they understand how relationships work between men and women. And that's what makes it where they grow up with an extremely distorted picture of relationships. And that was shown to me in an example as related to a video that I saw and I made some commentary on. And one of these videos that I made the commentary on as related to the unrealistic expectations of women was this video of this woman who wanted to tell everybody that a guy who makes $50,000 a year should not be dating.
So if you're making $50,000, don't date. Ooh. I'm just being for real. You're not ready to date.
Again, I'm with you.
You're not ready to date. You're not ready to date because courtship costs.
Okay.
Everything costs.
Okay.
You can go for 22 walks in the park. Eventually, Shorty is gonna need a sip of something. She gonna be thirsty. This bottle of water is $3 in Atlanta. Let's not play. So if you don't have any expendable cash, don't date. And whatever that looks like for you, you might only make 50,000, but you live in a shoe, and now you got expendable cash. Or get you a bottom of the barrel that's going to date you when you have no money. If she doesn't have the expectation, and I'm going to tell you this right now, enjoy it while it lasts, because eventually you're going to want to run, because she doesn't stretch you. She doesn't make you the man that you need to become. She allows you to be the stagnant dude in the same jeans for days. You know what I'm saying?
Be cutting up.
I'm
You
just
talk about
saying.
me.
Now, that's fair use as related to the use of that content, fair use under United States copyright law of 1976. But as I listen to this woman, it clearly shows me that this woman has completely unrealistic expectations as related to dating overall. And those unrealistic expectations are there because of the way this woman was raised without a father. I can tell by just listening to the things this woman is talking about as related to dating that she clearly has an unrealistic picture of dating and relationships because she never had a father in her life. And because she never had a father in her life to model manhood for her and show her an example of manhood, she has a completely distorted picture of men and relationships with men because her only models for manhood basically came in a single mother household where she saw males who were simps primarily and saw all of these simp males who were looking to basically pander to her. And instead of her seeing a model of actual manhood, she saw these simps and get this distorted picture of manhood, which was further reinforced by Madison Avenue and Hollywood's movies and TV shows and these romance novels and soap operas. And because she's had a steady diet of those movies, TV shows, romance novels, and it seems like a couple of snacks here and there, because this chick is kind of heavy set, what I see is a woman who basically doesn't have a clear, realistic picture of relationships and how they work, because anybody who has done research on the real world and has been around real people knows that people who make $50,000 a year are very rare, and the average man at best today, these days, is making about $45,000 a year. And that's only if he has a master's degree, if he's got an entry-level job. Every other guy is making a little less than that. So this woman sitting there and saying that men who make $50,000 a year or less shouldn't date, she really doesn't understand how the world works as related to the real world, because most men who are young like her ain't making that kind of money right now. And in most cases, when it comes to those guys basically are at the bottom trying to get started. And in most cases, those guys, again, they're making anywhere from, if they've got a high school diploma or a bachelor's degree, anywhere from $25,000 to $35,000 starting out. and maybe 40,000. But if they've got a master's, they'll make 45,000 starting out. So this woman basically has told every man out here in her age range in the social marketplace, they shouldn't be dating. And according to her, they shouldn't be dating because they don't make enough money. But most men, again, don't make a lot of money when they start out. And they go out here and they are trying to court women because they're looking to work with a woman towards building their life together. And she doesn't understand this because, again, no father in her life to show her about building, because when it comes to men, men are built over time. So that guy who makes over $50,000, he has to start somewhere. But a lot of times, because these women have unrealistic expectations, they're expecting a guy to be ready-made, making six figures. They're expecting a guy to be out here making that kind of money, when in actuality, there are not that many men out here making that kind of money. I mean, there's less than about maybe 5 to 7% of men in the world making six figures, and less than 1% that make seven figures. So this woman, basically, her whole idea of men is just completely distorted, and it's completely distorted because she got a social miseducation as related to dating and relationships from most of this media out here in Hollywood and Madison Avenue, which told all of these women that they could go out here and get a rich man, but those rich men don't exist, because that ideal man that they were told about in these movies, TV shows, and many of these soap operas, this is a social construct, and it's a social construct that was made up by the media to get women buying those movies, those TV shows, those romance novels, and keep them watching those soap operas that would have them going out and buying products. So that's the main foundation for a lot of these women having these completely unrealistic expectations, this completely distorted picture of reality as related to relationships between men and women. This completely distorted picture has them out here thinking that there's going to be some guy out here who is making all of this money, and has them also thinking that this guy is going to have these handsome, chiseled good looks like a Richard Gere or a Denzel Washington, with a six-pack abs like a Tyson Beckford or Antonio Sabato Jr., has them thinking that they're going to find this incredibly handsome man who makes six figures, has a master's degree, and drives luxury cars and has a mansion. I mean, this guy basically cannot exist if you are a working class dude. I mean, if you're a working class dude, there's no way you're going to be out here and be 6 feet tall, have a six-pack abs, and be working for six figures and be out here. No, that's not going to happen with a guy who's 21 to about 25 years old. No, at that point, most guys are just basically struggling to get their life started. And they're basically, if they can get the chance, be able to just get one of these jobs where they're basically making a minimum of about $15 an hour these days. That's the best most guys are going to be able to do from about 21 to about 25 coming out of college, if they're lucky. I mean, it's very hard out here for a dude to go out and get one of these jobs because of the HR brick wall and many of these feminist indoctrinated women going out here and expressing their contempt towards a man, and expressing contempt towards that man because he is not their ideal. And many of these women, because they are in their emotions about trying to get towards this ideal, oftentimes tear down the very men at the bottom as they're trying to build themselves up and take themselves to the next level. Because many of these guys, they'll be out here going on these job interviews, and these women will be sitting up here expressing their contempt for them, because they see these guys coming for these entry-level jobs. And what they do is, because they don't have a father in their life, they start expressing their contempt for that guy, thinking that he is less than because he's coming there for that job. They're thinking, oh, this guy is nothing. He can't do nothing for them because he's coming for this little low-level job, not understanding that man came for that low-level job to get a start, and he's coming to get a start because he's looking to try to start building himself up. But these women look to tear a man down because they have this dysfunctional ideal that's completely unrealistic, that a high-value man is going to walk into their office and come looking for one of these jobs. That's how completely backwards some of these women are. They're expecting a guy who makes six figures with a six-pack to come into their company and look for a job. But if he was making that kind of money, why would he be coming to that job? And that's the whole dysfunctional thing that makes these women completely backwards. They go out here and keep the men who would have become the kind of men they want from becoming the men that they want, because those men are at the entry level, not understanding every man has to start at the bottom. When it comes to men, they have to start somewhere, but because we have a majority of women in the workforce, they don't understand that when a man comes to try to get a $25,000 to $35,000 a year job, he's looking to get himself started, and he's looking to get a beginning. That's what they don't really understand, and they'll tear down those men and reject those men at the job, then say that these men shouldn't be dating. But the whole thing is, if you're out here with a guy, he's got to start somewhere, and if he can't start, he cannot start getting himself together to be at a point where he can get into a relationship with a woman. That's what many of the modern women don't understand, because their whole picture of relationships is completely distorted. And because it's so distorted in this rose-colored reality that they live in, they don't really understand the process for how relationships work. So that's what I got from that video of that young lady who seems to be eating a couple too many Twinkies too much. She has basically shown me that she really doesn't understand how relationships work, and she doesn't understand how it works because she possibly, again, never saw that father in her life to go and talk to her about how a man is supposed to date, because you're going to be going on a lot of walks with a guy in the beginning. Yeah, you're going to be going on a lot of walks because that's all he can afford to do. And that's all he can afford to do because he's just starting out. And he's basically looking to try to get to know you and trying to figure out who, if you're compatible with him, and if your character is one that would reflect positively on him. That's what those walks in a park are all about. And she's sitting here saying that water costs $3 in Atlanta. I don't know if it's that expensive over there, because here in New York, when it comes to water, Poland Spring, that's this size that I drink for my lives, this only costs $1. And this 23-ounce size, this only costs $1.29. So I don't know what type of water this woman is drinking. This is $1, and this is $1.29. And again, this woman could easily this is the kind of chick you take to the red and white chicken place, and you take her to the red and white chicken place, because if she want to eat, she can go out here and have some of that Arab chicken for about $2. And if a guy is feeling nice, he can spend another $1.50 and get her one of those fried apple pies and maybe a cinnamon roll or something like that. But you're not going to be entitled to all of the amenities that you see in these soap operas. I mean, you're not Erica Kane, you're not Marlena Black, you're not any of these fictional characters, but that doesn't stop these women from having these unrealistic expectations that they got from American media. And as they've gone out here and gotten these unrealistic expectations, what they're doing is they are still just having completely distorted viewpoints. And that was shown to me in yet another video that I saw on TikTok once more. And I'm going to share that video with y'all in this video right now.
Look at him. Y'all see this? Look at me. Y'all see how I look right now? This man that brought me on a date to Shake Shack. Like, of all places. Look at him.
Bro,
You got all
just
the
like
chains
that
and stuff
girl.
like that on your neck.
Just like that girl, but
She might have been wrong.
Shake Shack is nothing wrong. Then you order the chicken sandwich and stuff. Like, it's nothing wrong with Shake Shack. Shake Shack is a good spot. You tripping, man.
Really? So you could have took me nowhere else better than Shake Shack.
And Shake Shack is a good spot to go.
I mean, this what you got me.
Any healthy
That's
female
it.
would have loved to go to Shake Shack.
You got me 2 sandwiches and a drink.
So what? And it cost me $50 for just this.
This cost you $50.
$50. It cost me $50.
Let me see the receipt.
You ain't got to see the receipt. That's how much it costs. You act like you ungrateful. That's why I don't even like going on dates and stuff like that.
I mean, you be going out spending hundreds of thousands at the club and stuff like that. I don't see why I gotta come to Shake Shack.
But the thing about it is this is lunch. You feel me? You said let's go out for lunch. Surprise me, and I took you to Shake Shack. And this is how you act.
And that's the best surprise you could have got. Go ahead, start recording. I'm already in there.
I'm gonna show the internet.
Yeah, show them.
You feel me?
Show them.
But you want to order like you still order like
you
want to eat. You still about to eat.
I ain't say the food was nasty. I just said I wanted something else.
You wanted to go to what? Where you want to go? Where do you want to go?
I mean, shoot. I mean, right here in the South Side. I mean, all these fancy restaurants over here. We couldn't have got something that at least gave me some silverware.
We could have went that for dinner.
Okay, but check this out. Check this out though. Hold on.
Right
I'm about to prove a point though. Man, pick up your fork. Let me see your fork. Yeah.
That's how Shake Shack do it.
That's a fork.
This is how Shake Shack do it.
Okay.
This is how Shake Shack. This is finger food.
Okay.
Like, you don't even need a fork. This is bougie. Like, that's bougie.
All right.
Now, fair use of this video, fair use, and I'm going. So in this video, this woman basically has an unrealistic expectation as related to dating, and she has an unrealistic expectation because she's expecting a lunch date to be where a guy basically takes her to one of these fancy Lachey Whitey restaurants and expects her to take her to one of these fancy Lachey Whitey restaurants where she's expecting to have this meal in one of these restaurants. And what's really sad is that this woman's expectations of a lunch date are, absolutely ridiculous. And again, she's sitting there in a restaurant that is highly expensive because I did my own research on Shake Shack and I went looking at the prices of Shake Shacks here in New York. And a Shake Shack burger alone is $7. The fries are about $5. So this guy on that tray, basically, and that table has about $50 worth of food combined with the drinks. And that's not enough for that woman because what she has been told is that if a man wants to take you out, he's got to take you to one of these Lachey Whitey gourmet restaurants where there is a waiter, where there are these fancy tablecloths, and he's got to go out here and spend hundreds of dollars on you to make a good first impression on her. But that's not how it works as related to the world of dating. No, that's not how it works as related to the world of dating at all. No, with a lunch date is all about just two people looking to get to know each other. And a lunch date is something that's usually done in a more quaint place like a coffee shop or a Starbucks. And it's usually done for far less than $50. So this guy, basically, he went above and beyond in trying to make a good first impression on her. But because this woman is living in a fantasy land, she's expecting this guy to just go all out for her. And she's not even dressed for that kind of restaurant because usually for that kind of restaurant, what people do is they go and get dressed up. A guy will go out here and put on his nicest suit. A woman will put on her nicest dress to go to that restaurant. And usually with that kind of restaurant, usually a woman has to be a man's wife or his woman because for him to spend that kind of money, he needs to see that that woman is going to show him respect and show him so much respect that she will reflect so positively on him that he can trust her not to embarrass him if he took her to one of those restaurants. And from the behavior of this woman, she shows us that she is not somebody worthy of going to one of those kinds of restaurants like she wants to go to. No, the way she was behaving and the way she was dressed showed us all that she deserved to go to the Arab red and white chicken place that I've talked about that methinks $9.95 says was the Crown Fried Chicken. Now, Crown Fried Chicken is what they call Arab red and white chicken places in Harlem. But here in the Bronx, we call them Kennedy Fried Chicken. And I think they call them Kennedy Fried Chicken in Brooklyn. But usually that's the place where you go and you take this kind of chick, because this kind of chick, basically, this is where we want to see how they're going to behave. And we want to see how they're going to behave in that kind of restaurant. Because if you can behave yourself in the Arab red and white chicken place, then maybe you can graduate maybe to McDonald's, like one full boss has mentioned. Maybe you can graduate to KFC. And if you behave properly, maybe a man can take you to someplace much nicer. But you got to show that man that you are somebody who's not going to act a fool with him in public. No, if I got to see you acting a fool in public, why would I want to take you to another restaurant to make me embarrassed? And embarrassed if I bring, especially to a spot where I got people there. That's something that a woman doesn't understand. She's got to work her way into. You got to work your way up into that. But many of these modern women, because they have been spoiled by this whole gynocentric society, which where we have all these simps pandering and pampering them, they don't understand that relationships are a two-way street, and you have to earn your way to show this man you are somebody he should invest time in. Because yes, he's investing money in taking you out, but you need to understand he is investing a greater intangible in time, and time is something this man can't get back. But this woman doesn't value this man's time, because in our society, we have devalued men. We have devalued men as related to relationships. And many of these women have no regard for a man's time. And they've learned to not have regard for a man's time because they believe they are entitled to this man as related to his attention. They believe they are entitled to be able to get everything from a man, not understanding that when it comes to relationships with men, you need to show that man respect first, because if that man is not able to get respect, guess what? He's not going to want to invest more time with you. But many of these women have been taught from birth they don't have to respect men. And what's even worse is that they have been enabled to believe that they don't need to respect men by these beta males and these simps who think that they have to go out here and beg women for their attention, sacrificing their intangibles of manhood, such as their dignity and their self-respect. And as they sacrifice their intangibles, like their dignity and self-respect, what they do is teach women that they can be mistreated and they can have to accept abuse in order to have a relationship with them. And that's why you see so many of these modern women believing that their unrealistic expectations are something that they can achieve, because many of these men don't understand their role as a man in God's order. Many of these men do not understand their role as a head or a leader. And many of these men have been raised to have low self-esteem, to believe that they have to tolerate disrespectful behavior from women. And that is why many of these modern women have unrealistic expectations about dating and relationships, because many men have been taught they have to accept disrespect from women. But what they don't understand is that the more disrespect you accept, the more disrespect you will receive. And this is why a man has to set boundaries with a woman from minute one, because many of these spoiled modern women who have this sense of entitlement, the reason why they're acting like this is not because because of them just being women. It's because the men refuse to set boundaries. It's because many of the men refuse to establish standards for themselves. And it's because many of the men will go out here and look to try to appease and please these women, hoping that they can get a covert contract fulfilled, whereas they think if they do all the things that the woman wants, hopefully she will drop the skid mark jockey thong, and they will be able to get access to the nuclear waste reactor between their legs, and be able to stick their carbon rod inside of that reactor for a taste of the atomic waste from the special place. Unfortunately, what all they get is they never get any of that waste, because oftentimes all of their pandering to those women leads to those guys having an ashy dick and extra, 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 extra dry balls, drier than a chip. And that's what happens to these guys, because they enable these unrealistic expectations. And again, these unrealistic expectations are absolutely ridiculous. I mean, you have a woman sitting here talking about $50,000 a year is not enough money to date. You have another one talking about how a guy taking her to a nice restaurant like the Shake Shack isn't good enough, similar to the Cheesecake Factory lady. I mean, these women basically are sitting there thinking about they're going to be able to get the kinds of experience that millionaires provide, but you're coming to this man basically with a $25,000 a year job, or sometimes a $35,000 a year job, and you don't want the guys on your level. No, they're thinking that they're going to get this super rich guy, but that super rich guy is not interested in these kinds of women. No, when it comes to the so-called high value man, he's not looking at any of these kinds of women, but these women want to believe that they can get this kind of experience, but that experience is just not going to happen, because again, what they're chasing is a social construct of a man that just does not exist on this planet. I mean, this whole concept of a dude that they're looking for, he's not out here. He never will be out here. It's not possible for him to be out here. I mean, how many 20-something or 30-something guys are out here who are 6 feet tall, have six-pack abs, are making six figures, and have time to go out here and date a woman from one of these lower socioeconomic levels? Critical question I got to ask all those modern women: where is this guy? Because many of the guys who are making that kind of money, many of those guys' schedules are so tight because they've got so much work to do as related to whatever job or business that they're doing, that they got no time to go out here and check for some woman at some club or some bar where they think he's going to be. No, in many cases, when it comes to those so-called six-figure high-value men who dress up like I do in Brooks Brothers shirts, many of those dudes, basically what those guys are doing is they get most of the women that they get involved with referred to them from their family and friends. So if you're not in that social circle, you got no chance of ever meeting that kind of dude. And he wouldn't really want to invest time in you because he basically sees that you're not a part of his social circle. So a lot of these women, they have a lot of really unrealistic expectations about women, just completely distorted pictures. Again, they're sitting there thinking, oh, there's going to be a guy like on the soap operas like a Joey Buchanan or Brady Black. I'm going way back in the soaps back because the soaps haven't been on the air for a while, like the One Life to Live and shows like Days of Our Lives. I mean, they're expecting this guy to come up rolling up in one of these cars like a Mercedes Benz. I'm like, guys don't make that kind of money. Usually, again, a guy in his 20s, early 20s to mid 20s, the only thing he can afford is a hoopty at that point, because that's all he can afford. I mean, you might get a guy who drives a old Buick Park Avenue or an old Buick Lucerne with a leather interior or an old Lexus LS. That's the best you're going to get, but you can't explain that to these women who are expecting this super rich guy with the brand new car. It was good looking, but that guy isn't out here. No, he's not out here at all. What you're looking for is never going to happen. And if you want that kind of guy, you got to understand, you got to get on a dude's program at the ground floor, because the way you find these kind of guys is on the ground floor when they're in college. That's what older women used to do. They understood the guy who was like me, who's doing well in school. You want to get on his program early on, and you want to help him be able to find that first job and start making that good money. And when he starts taking that good money, he's going to build with you, and you're both going to build together, because that's the way the Most High made it to be. He made it to be because he wanted you to have the wife of your youth. But you can't explain that to these modern women who are not following the Most High and not part of God's order. No, they're a part of the order of the state. And as they are a part of the order of the state, what they're looking for is for the state to provide them with this ideal man that they created from their social constructs of Madison Avenue in Hollywood. Unfortunately, that man does not exist. And because that man just does not exist, you have a lot of women, they're still hoping that they can find a guy like this. But this guy, he's not out here. He never will be out here. But that doesn't stop them from trying to chase him. And as they chase them, what's really sad about these women with their unrealistic expectations is that they pass by a lot of quality men out here, quality men who are at the bottom of the world, quality men who are putting those bricks to build out on the ground, quality men who are working at that job like I used to work and working towards starting their own business, guys who are having businesses on the side, guys who are out here working side hustles. You got guys out here putting in work, but these women don't want to work with those men. No, what they're looking to chase is this dream of this Prince Charming who will take them away to happily ever after. But that guy isn't, again, he's not available to take them because he's an imaginary construct. But you can't explain that to those girls who were raised in that single mother household and have this fantasy fed to them by Madison Avenue in Hollywood of the Disney princesses, of the Prince Charming, of the Vivian from Pretty Woman, hoping that there will be a guy out there like Edward who will go out here and sweep them off their feet. Girls looking for these guys like they see on The Bachelor that they can go out here and compete for. But in most cases, again, these guys are not real, and they buy into this fantasy. And what's sad is as they invest in that fantasy, they wind up losing the very best years of their lives, and they lose the very best years of their lives going out here following behind a dream. And as they follow behind the dream, what they do is go out here and buy all of these different books from people like Candace Bushnell with Sex in the City. They go out and buy the books from people like Steve Harvey. They go out here and watch the movies from Tyler Perry. They medicate themselves with food and antidepressants. And it's all because they want to buy into this unrealistic picture of life that is not possible to achieve. And they become more and more depressed as they buy into this fantasy, trying to make it come true, not understanding that there's no logical way to make this happen. What they do is become frustrated. They become angry. And as they try to stifle and suppress the anger inside of them, this is what becomes the depression. It becomes depression because they're trying to make this fantasy real, but there's no way possible for this to be real. And what's really sad is you've got guys out here who won't tell these women the truth. And what they do is enable them and try to buy into the fantasy and play the roles. That's where the players come in. They play the roles. And as they play the roles, they try to just tell these women what they want to hear, further enabling their unrealistic expectations and their unrealistic picture as related to relationships. And this does even further damage because this winds up breaking that woman's trust. And it breaks that woman's trust because what that woman starts to believe is, oh, I have a guy who's kind of like what he says, what is said as related to these ideals, but that guy again is pretending to be a role. And many of these women, what they do is they think they got one, but they don't know that they're just getting got. Because you'll have a lot of guys out there, they'll dress themselves up, they'll put on the expensive clothes, they'll go and rent one of these Bentleys or one of these Rolls Royces, and they'll take this woman to the Lachey Whitey, and they'll take her to the Lachey Whitey and perpetrate a role, all to get that woman to get in her feelings. And then, after they get her in her feelings, they'll take her to one of these rented spots, and then as she's enamored and caught up in this world this player has created, then she drops the skid mark jockey thong, and he gets his taste of the atomic waste, and soon she finds out that she's just been played for those draws, and this is what makes this woman devastated because, one, she's given her body to this man. This man has violated her trust, and this is what leads to all of the bitterness that many of these women wind up having because they want something that just doesn't exist, but they don't want to understand that these unrealistic expectations are the thing that puts you in this situation. These unrealistic expectations put you in this situation because what you want, nobody has the courage to tell you isn't possible. Now, the thing that the mainstream media, one of the great lies that they told young girls back in the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s is that anything is possible, but that doesn't fit into the real world where in order to achieve or accomplish something, you have to understand that you're not going to be able to get the six-figure guy. No, when it comes to most guys, they don't start out at six figures, and the only guys who do start out at six figures, like celebrities, wind up oftentimes crashing and burning as related to their wealth. And in a lot of cases, those guys basically just look for women to turn out. So a lot of women will sit there and think, oh, I got one because I went on a date with a celebrity. But then after he gets the skid mark jockey thong dropped to the ankles, he goes out here and has his fun. And after he has his fun, this woman basically winds up embarrassed. And she's embarrassed and she tries to deny it by saying, oh, that just was something that just happened, but he's eventually going to call me back. No, he's never going to call you back because this was never about a relationship for him. And your attempts to try to make this into a relationship is just not going to happen. No, when it comes to the modern woman thinks that she knows everything because she's been miseducated. And she's been miseducated because her social education starts out as a mess. And it starts out as a mess early on because oftentimes she's growing up in a single mother household, or she's growing up in a household with an enabling father who won't go out here and tell her the truth about this world and won't tell her the truth about these streets. Now, a true to the game father, he will nurture his daughter and give her love and emotional security. But as he gives her that emotional security, he's going to go out and tell that daughter the truth. And that makes it where the mother feels safe enough to tell that girl about the world and start teaching her about the world. And both of them can work together to get that daughter right. That's what a father does. And when a father, in addition to his nurturing of his daughter and giving her emotional security, he provides that model for manhood that lets that girl know how a man has to live in this world. And when she sees real men coming home every day, a real man in the house showing her how a man has to make bills, get paid, how a man has to make ends meet, that gives her a realistic picture of men in this world and a realistic picture of how what a man has to do to survive. That realistic picture gives her a first example of a man. And when you have a daughter who has a father in her life, she has a realistic picture of men, and she has a model of what to look for in a man when she pursues a relationship with a man. So a father is very important to give your daughter realistic expectations. Unfortunately, many of the girls who grew up in our feminist and gynocentric society, they never grew up with an actual active father in their life. And that father was demonized and minimized by the mother who said, oh, we don't need no man to raise our children. But it's clear to me from looking at these two videos going on 3 that I'm going to show you that there is a clear reason why we need a father in a girl's life. And we need a father in a girl's life because a father gives a woman, a girl, a realistic picture of manhood. And a father is the one who will shatter and debunk all of these unrealistic expectations that she has from watching all of these Disney princess movies, all of these romance movies, all of these romance novels, and watching these soap operas and TV shows. That father being there is going to shatter all of those ideas because she has an actual man there to tell her, one, all of that is fiction, two, all of that is bullshit, and three, if you want to get involved with a man, you need to have an example of manhood in front of you. You need a man there to vet those boys and those men that she gets involved with. That's another role that a father plays in protecting his daughter by vetting these men and finding out where these guys come from, what they're doing in their lives, and what they're all about. And that's what sadly, all two of these women in this video clearly don't have, because from what I've seen, from the way they're talking, it's clear to me they never had a father in their life, and that's why they were acting a fool in that video. And I'm going to show you another video of another spoiled woman who basically shows how she just doesn't understand how the world works. And this woman basically shows me that she doesn't understand how the world works because she doesn't understand how life works at all. And this one is just Arkham certified.
Of jobs that men should not do, especially grown-ass men, okay? For one, McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, matter of fact, any fast food restaurant, if you think that you're a grown-ass man working in a fast food restaurant is okay, something is wrong with you, all right? Leave those jobs to the teenagers. My nephew can't even get a job right now because there's some grown-ass man in his goddamn 40s flipping my goddamn burger. Okay, let it go. Leave it alone. That job is not for you. Anything in retail, okay? I don't want to see no grown-ass man handing me a dress, okay? Why are you a grown-ass man working at Ross? That makes absolutely no sense, okay? Target, Marshalls, like, guys, give it up. Leave these jobs to the kids. Leave these jobs to the teenagers. These are jobs you get in high school, in college. But once you're a grown-ass man, you do not need to be working in any fast food restaurant or any retail restaurant. And for you high-value men that think that it's high value to work for the city, let me tell you something. You're absolutely wrong, all right? No police officers, no firefighters, no construction workers, no mailmen, no post office. If you consider that a high value man, you're absolutely wrong, okay? There's nothing high value about making $70,000 a year. You men that think working for the city is high.
Now, this woman, again, shows me that she really has no understanding of how the world works for men. Now, this woman is sitting here talking about the kind of jobs a man is supposed to work at, and she has no understanding of how the world works for men as related to the job market. Now, this woman wants to talk about how a man shouldn't be working fast food or working in jobs like the retail or jobs like the ones at the city or working as a mailman. But what she don't understand is that a man has to take whatever job he can get in this world in order to make a living. And a lot of dudes out here are taking jobs because they are looking to have the character and resolve to stand up for their families. And they're willing to put up with a lot of crap at these jobs because they love their families. So this is what this woman doesn't understand about a man working that kind of job. A lot of times these dudes out here, they are doing that kind of work because they love their families. And at the most of all, they're doing it for their own survival. So she's sitting up here with an unrealistic expectation of a man as related to the world of work. She's expecting a man to come out here and be some kind of executive. And that really, again, is another unrealistic expectation from watching too much All My Children, watching Adam Chandler and Jackson Montgomery and guys like John Black or guys like Victor Newman. I mean, they're sitting there watching all these different soap opera guys, and they're sitting there having an unrealistic expectation about men as related to the kind of job that they have. What they want is that guy to be this super powered executive, but only 1% of the men in the world are those kind of executives that make 6 to 7 figures. And that's a very rare thing as related to men. But you have a lot of these girls, again, because they never saw a father coming home from the kind of jobs like working for the city or working for fast food. They never saw their father coming home from work. So she's sitting up here talking about guys need to have these 6-figure jobs and 7-figure jobs in order to be those are the kind of jobs a man should have. But no, that's not how a guy starts out in this world. No, a lot of guys are just starting out at basic jobs, entry level. And entry level, again, is anywhere from $30,000 to $45,000 a year at best, depending on the kind of degree and education you have and certifications that you have. That is how a guy starts in this world. And you have these young women, again, no father to show them a model of manhood, having a completely unrealistic expectation about the kind of man who's out here and having a completely unrealistic picture of how relationships work with men. And that's what I saw with this video a while back. And I did my own previous video about this, but it fits what I want to talk about as these unrealistic expectations, because it's unreal to expect all these men to be making all this money. And this has to be a mindset that has been programmed into these women, again, at an early age when they were sitting there in front of that TV, in front of those soap operas, in front of those romantic comedies, in front of these movies. They're sitting there thinking, this is real. No, it's not real at all. And if you had a real father in front of you, you would understand the struggles a guy goes through when he's going out here looking to make a living. That's what many of these women don't understand. And again, your expectations are just absolutely ridiculous, but nobody has the backbone or the stones to try to tell these women that their expectations are absolutely ridiculous and make no logical sense. And that the reason why they don't want to do that is because these guys fear not being able to get this woman to drop again that skid mark jockey thong so that they can get a taste of the atomic waste. But a man of character who understands his own intangibles of manhood, like myself, I'm going to tell you that, look, your expectations don't fit reality. Your expectations don't make no logical sense. I mean, this guy that you're looking for, he's not going to ever be. And you're sitting up here talking about he needs to be working a certain kind of job. Well, there's not that many of those executive jobs out there. There's not that many of those management jobs out there. I mean, over the last 30, 35 years, a lot of those middle management jobs have been eliminated. A lot of those senior management jobs have been eliminated. So there's not a lot of guys making all this kinds of money. So what you're looking for, again, you have a lot more women on this planet than men. And that's another thing these women don't understand. You are competing against a large pool of other women, and the whole pickings, they start to go down over time because you have a lot of guys chasing you when you're younger, but when you get older, that whole pickings start to get slim because a lot of those women who are competing start to realize, hey, there's not that many guys out here. There's 4 women for 1 man standard, and it's now 7 to 1 for a black man. So finding any guy out here is very hard to do. But many of these women, they want to sit here and have unrealistic expectations, and they want to hold out for this better deal. But sadly, what's going to happen to the woman who holds on to her unrealistic expectations is she's going to wind up with a raw deal. Now, I talk about that in depth in The Woman Crisis. And in The Woman Crisis, I talk about the quest for the better deal. And that's basically what these women are looking to go on. They're looking to go on this quest for a better deal. They're holding out hope they can eventually find that imaginary construct of a man who meets all of their unrealistic criteria. They're holding out all hope that there's going to be this dude out here who will basically be the one who will meet all the Madison Avenue and Hollywood criteria. But what they don't understand is that their unrealistic expectations that they have been indoctrinated into basically are something that are not designed to mislead them. Because just as you think there's a guy who is out there who meets that criteria, what they do is move the goalpost. And they move the goalpost because what they want to do is have you continuing to chase behind all of their consumer products, like those self-help books, continue to keep you on the antidepressants, continue to keep you chasing after many of these movies where you sit there and are with your friends in the bar, soaking up your tears, talking about how you can't find a man, and the person keeping you from finding a man is you. And you're keeping yourself from finding this man because you're chasing a social construct, passing by all the quality brothers and quality dudes, passing them by, thinking, oh, I'm waiting for this perfect person, but there's no perfect person out there. And the whole thing is, the irony is that while you're looking for this perfect person, all of your character flaws are coming out and being seen. And that's what's being shown to us in these kinds of videos. We're seeing all the character flaws in these women that make them unattractive to men, because we see that they're not looking for a man based on his values and his character. No, they're looking for a man based on this criteria of consumerism that basically commodifies a man and turns a man into a product. So what they're looking for is this commodified version of a man that they think is going to be perfect. But the whole thing is, it's just one bad deal. Because again, just as you think you're about to get it, they move the goalpost and tell you you need to get something else. And this has been going on for a good, I say, 30 to 40 years. Because I remember growing up in the 1980s when they came up with this whole social construct. And before, it was just a guy who was an executive who was good looking and had all of this money. But now it's evolved into an even more distorted picture of the guy, again, 6 feet, six-pack abs, drives and that makes six figures, and drives a luxury car and has a condo. I mean, the things that these women want are just ridiculous. And there's no way any man can ever be what this woman wants. And the only guys who look to make it fit that model are these beta males who think that they can actually be that good man, or these other guys who pretend to play the role, and they're playing the role because they want to get into the panties. So that's what we have here. And again, it's all fueled by unrealistic expectations from women who were indoctrinated into feminism, unrealistic expectations from women who never had that father in their life to be the first man in their life, unrealistic expectations from women who were told a bunch of lies from television, movies, romance novels, and are not given a real picture of real life. I mean, this is what's happening to a lot of these modern women, and these modern women have just a completely unrealistic picture of relationships, and that unrealistic picture of relationships is the main thing that's keeping them single, and it's the main reason why 70% of Black women are single. I mean, so many of these women are single right now, and they're single for a reason. They're single because they're not looking to follow the Most High God and look to find out what his role of a woman is. No, what they want to do is continue to follow behind the mammon of the white man and corporate America, and they want to serve the mammon, hoping that they can get rich. And this is all designed to appeal to the woman's natural hypergamy, and it's designed to appeal to the woman's natural hypergamy because the woman, in many cases, wants to be in that high social status, wants that high social status man, and wants that man with the largest amount of resources. But the whole point of this whole gambit is to get you to go out here and give all of your resources to corporate America as you chase the dream, a dream that will never be fulfilled, and has many of these women basically on a road to being single for the rest of their lives and winding up completely miserable for the rest of their lives, working at these jobs, hoping that there will be a Prince Charming coming, but there's no Prince Charming coming at all. And sadly, many people just don't want to hear that truth. They don't want to hear that truth because what they want to do is be told what they want to hear. They want to hope and believe that eventually this dream will come true. But the sad part is that that dream never comes true, and their life becomes a nightmare. And their life becomes a nightmare, because they're sitting there having these unrealistic expectations. And what's even sadder is as they have these unrealistic expectations, nobody can talk to them and show them reality because they have invested so much of their feelings into this delusion that no man can really sit down and explain this to them. No, if a guy tries to explain this to them, that their picture of relationships is unrealistic, they start to get all upset in their feelings. They start to go and get defensive. And sadly, no man can sit there and tell them until they wind up hitting the wall. And sadly, it's only when they wind up hitting the wall, that's when they eventually start to wake up. But sadly, at that point, it's eventually too late. At that point, it's just basically over at that point. And it's over at that point. And when it's over at that point, sadly, that's when these women find out that they are basically on the road to a place that many women don't want to go to, and that place is one that they really don't want to take a trip to. And that trip is to a place I call
downtown. We can get a date. Come on down the bus downtown. We can get a date for 50, 60, 70, even 80% off the original social marketplace price.
That's the place they wind up going. And in Bus Downtown, that's where they find their social marketplace value has basically dropped. And it's dropped down to a level that's 50, 60, 70, even 80% off the original social marketplace price. And it's in that place that they realize that they cannot get any dude that meets their expectations. And sadly, at that point, that's where they find out that there are no guys anymore. All the guys that used to chase them have stopped chasing them because they've basically found other women who would accept what they have to offer. Many of those men are getting married and having families, and this woman has missed out on all of her prime years as she's been sitting in Bus Downtown and now hoping somebody will take her off the lot. But the pickings are very slim. No, the only guys out there are old Pookies, old Ray Rays, and Romy Rome, who is going to approach with his two-piece chicken dinner he got from the Crown Fried Chicken or the Kennedy Fried Chicken, hoping that he can go out here and get his carbon rod soaked in some atomic waste for the low price of that two-piece chicken dinner from the Arab red and white chicken place, or hopefully he can find a woman who will accept some scrump fried rice and some chicken wangs, and he's hoping he'll be able to get it in for about 45 seconds, and that's the options that women have at that point. So many of these women think that they've got a shot, but they don't have a shot at all. No, at that point, the pickings are slim to none. And that's where a lot of women wind up because they have these unrealistic expectations and don't want to work with the men that God has presented to them. God presents women with quality men in front of them, unfortunately, because they don't want to submit to his authority or his leadership. What happens is that these women wind up taking on Madison Avenue and Hollywood's unrealistic expectations, and they wind up with nothing at all. and they wind up with nothing at all because they don't want to follow the leadership of the Most High. No, they want to go out here and they want to lead themselves, but sadly, the way that they're leading themselves, it may seem good to them, but the end of it is death. And sadly, it's a lonely death as related to this world, and an even lonelier death when they enter the next world, because if they do not have the Most High, sadly, they are going to wind up in the lake of fire. That's what's going to happen to the modern woman. She'll have all these unrealistic expectations, and those unrealistic expectations will not only take her life in this world to be miserable, it'll take her on a road straight to hell. And that's the sad end of the modern woman as related to her having these unrealistic expectations. These unrealistic expectations that she has basically are ones that put her on a road to just complete misery. And she's thinking, oh, that these things that she sees are things that are attainable. But that's where a father comes in and lets her know what's attainable. Just like the Father in heaven guides both men and women, the father in the home guides his daughters and teaches his daughters about how life works in this world. And any true to the game father who loves his daughters, he's going to let his daughters know that if you want anything in this world, yes, it's going to take work. You're going to have discipline and resolve. You're going to have to persevere in the face of adversity, because relationships aren't easy and nobody's going to pamper and spoil you. The only guy who will do that is your father. I mean, when it comes to fathers, because they love their daughters and they want to nurture their daughters, yes, they'll go out of their way and try to meet their daughter's needs and try to give her everything nice. But when it comes to a man, he has a different relationship with a woman, and he's looking for a woman to work with him as a partner in that relationship and help meet his needs. And that's something many girls don't understand, because, again, there's no father to give her structure, no father to give her order, no father to hold her accountable, and no father to stand with the mother to allow the mother to get in there and provide discipline and order on that girl. There's no father there, and this is what we see in these girls, and that's what I saw with these videos of these girls. I just saw more modern women with unrealistic expectations, unrealistic ideas about relationships, unrealistic ideas about life, unrealistic pictures and ideas about life in this world, and unrealistic pictures of how the world works. I mean, that's what I saw in these couple of videos. And it's something I wrote about in my book, The Woman Crisis. I mean, that the book, The Woman Crisis, I wrote all about this, and I wrote all about this because I wanted women to understand, just like I wanted men who were reading The Man Crisis to understand how the world is right now. And a lot of women, they don't really understand how bad the world is as for them, because they are running around with these rose-colored lenses as related to life. And as they're running around with these rose-colored lenses as related to life, they're out here chasing a dream that is just not possible and is not achievable or attainable for a woman. They're sitting there thinking that they can be on this road of feminism and they can be just like a man. But sadly, you cannot be like a man. No, you're going to and try to be with a man because you're incompatible with a man. Because whenever you have a feminist who's out here thinking, oh, I want this big time guy who makes all this money and I'm going to lead him, what that does is make it where neither one of you are going to be able to work together, because you're completely incompatible with him, because it leads to a power struggle. Because if you're trying to be the man and he's trying to be the man, you're going to wind up fighting each other. And many of the modern women, they don't understand that the way they have been miseducated by feminism and miseducated by their mothers who don't have a father in the home, many of these women basically are sitting there with this completely distorted picture of life. And sadly, there's nobody there to pop them a red pill back in the day to show them the truth. No man to sit there and tell them about the real world. No man to sit there and talk to them like I am right now. And that's why we have all these modern women like we see in these videos I showed you. These are all women who are all showing me the impact of a home without a father. Because when I listen to the way that they're talking, it's clear to me there's no dad there to correct her behavior. There's no dad there to tell her how men are. There's no man there to talk to her about men or tell them about life or relationships with men. There's no man there to sit down and talk to that girl. There's no man there to nurture that girl and get her to understand how things work between men and women. She's getting a picture of manhood from media that really isn't one that's presenting her a balanced picture of manhood. That's what we're seeing here with these modern women. And these modern women have completely unrealistic expectations that will have them miserable for the rest of their lives unless they break out of this paradigm of failure. Because the only way to get out of this paradigm of failure is to understand what your role is as a woman. And that's why I urge women to go out here and read their Bibles to understand their role as a woman. Moreover, they need to go out here and pick up some of my books, like Why 70% of Black Women Are Single and The Woman Crisis, because those books will basically shatter all of these false narratives that you have been fed ever since you were a baby. And these false narratives, they are not designed to get you married. They're designed to keep you single, because companies get rich when you're single and lonely. Because when you're single and lonely, they make money off of you. And as you continue to chase those unrealistic expectations, they profit at your expense, selling you these products. That's the whole plan as related to keeping you single. That's what it's all about as related to these unrealistic expectations. And again, these unrealistic expectations are about basically messing you up to the point where you're just out here jacked up. Gonna take a minute and thank you. What's going on, Tavania Joseph? She asked the question, do you think the system is stacked against men? And do you think nepotism plays a role in keeping many good people out of jobs? Yeah, I think that the system right now is stacked against men because they don't really want men on these jobs. And they don't want men on these jobs because men push back on things and women are more submissive and they'll go along to get along. Whereas a man is going to stand up and push back on things. And sometimes pushback is good because it'll show you perspective on things. And that's something folks don't understand. But a lot of times they don't want to bring men into the workplace. And they also use nepotism to keep men out and the gatekeeping to keep us from getting those good jobs as well. So, Tavania, I'm glad to see you here again. And good evening, Z-Ken. Yeah. That's a good point, Keating Rock. Yeah, black man in the U.S. does come in at a disadvantage as related to racism. Yeah, that keeps a lot of black men out of the job market. It also projects things on the black men. I'm going to talk about that later this week in 2 videos. I'm going to talk about it in the Debunking the Black Man is Lazy that's coming on tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. And on Tuesday night, I'm doing one about the generation gap in the job market. So it's going on Video Game Spree. And it's going, well, methinks $9.95. I talked to him about that chicken. What's going on? The ship will sail. One for boss. Z Ken, glad to see you here. Robert, Mustafa, Muhammad. So Top Killer, glad to see you here. Candace, glad to see you here. Yeah, but when it comes to these unrealistic expectations, I mean, this is why you really need fathers. And again, that fathers, they are somebody who we really need to bring back to the family. We really need to bring fathers back in. What's going on, Entrepreneur King, age 16? I'm glad to see you here. I'm almost about ready to wrap it up. But the whole thing is that when I did this live, because again, I see all these modern women and I see a pattern with these TikTok videos. And the pattern is I see girls without fathers, because only a girl without father is going to be making these ridiculous statements. And these videos basically show me the importance of fathers and why we need fathers, because it's fathers who would give these girls perspective and help them be able to know how the world works for women and how it works differently for women than it does men. That is something that is desperately needed. A lot of women need to see the perspective of the world from a man's perspective, because the perspective from a man's perspective will give them some understanding of how the world is different for men. This is something that I try to explain as related to the man crisis, but I think women need to hear this because women need to understand that the world is a completely different place for a man than it does a woman. And that would help them get some perspective as related to expectations and start to ground these women into reality. Now, I'm having the slowest Black History Month in history for SJS Direct. I've only had 3 sales as related to this month. And I would really like it if you guys could go over to Amazon.com and pick up some of the books on the SJS Direct imprint, like The Woman Crisis and Why 70% of Black Women Are Single. That would really help out them, and help me be able to pay my bills this month. That really would help me out a lot. I mean, I only sold 3 books this entire month, and I need your help as related to getting the sales up. I would like to get maybe 10, 15, 20 sales, and I can only do that with your help. So if you guys can click the link on the chat and pick up some of the books from Amazon.com, that would be greatly appreciated. And if you guys could head over to the Cash App and drop a donation on the Cash App, that would also help me to be able to stay on the air. All of those donations would help me to be able to stay on the air and be able to continue making content like this. And if you can't use Cash App, you can, drop the PayPal. That would be greatly appreciated. And One Full Boss, I'm glad you're reading Wrath of the Cyber Goddess. I mean, that was one book that I really enjoyed writing. And that was a book that was the first Bill Walko cover I ever did with him. And it's one of the big stories in the SJS Direct universe. That's the first meeting between Isis and John Haynes. That one is a fun book. So those are the kind of books you guys can pick up on Amazon.com on the SJS Direct imprint. And I also have a lot of great nonfiction there that will help out a lot of women, like Why 70% of Black Women Are Single and The Woman Crisis. Both of those books will definitely help you out in getting some realistic expectations and realistic expectations as related to relationships. Glad to see you here, Deshaun Crew. I'm going to get ready to wrap up tonight's stream. And before I'm going to wrap it up. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Everybody have a great evening. Everybody have a good night. I'm going to wrap it all up, and I want to thank everybody once again. I hope you'll be here for next week's stream, and I hope you guys have a great weekend.